Marion, you're muted. You're muted.
Okay, we are recording. Hello. Hi. So Eduardo, I'm so happy to have you join us today. It's really a treat and a pleasure to have you. So I'd like you to go ahead, and whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
Well, I've got an agenda, everybody, and that's to spread Casa Del Sol villages throughout the world. And the big news is after 40 years, there's now a second one. That means a lot to me. You know, is it replicable? And the people that started it, which by the way, I'm not going to go out there and do other Casa Del Luces. That would not be the right spirit of having these wellness community centers happen. So having a second one is so powerful. We just doubled in size. But just here in Austin, I expect that within 5 years, we may have as many as 20.
Eduardo, you're kind of jumping in the middle. What is Casa Del Sol?
Okay. So I was just telling Ganat that we have 4 pillars, and it's educational, experiential, wellness, community center. And so all of these things, none is more important than the other. They all work together. It has Macrobox as a foundation. It's a multi-use space with a dining room that for many may appear like a restaurant, but anytime the habituated mind walks in and thinks they're coming into a restaurant, they're going to miss what it really is. So I can tell you this, when children come to Casa Del Sol, they get it. Because they don't have that habituated mind that adds up all their past experiences, which equates to a restaurant. And they come in and what they see is community. And children move around freely, happily. They intermingle with others. So how to describe it is what I'm working on, because as I see this being replicated, all of a sudden I feel this urgency to have a working manual, to have reference materials that other new Casa Del Sol can refer to. And as we move forward, as new Casa Del Sol open throughout the world, one of our basic tenets is asawan. And by asawan, I mean empty mind, no dogma, non credo, don't believe it, ignoramus club. So all we can say is that we're doing our best knowing that there's always something better. And so that's been the spirit of Casa Del Sol for the last 40 years.
How did you get started with it, Eduardo?
Well, got started in Boston.
Where's the second one?
The second one is in East Austin. So Marion, you've experienced it, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's heaven on earth. I mean, you walk into Casa Del Sol from the street and it's like walking into heaven. There's the plantings and the brick walkway. I mean, it's just like you've entered a whole nother realm. It's just really beautiful.
Well, thank you, Marion. And the thing is that this whole spirit, not just where did it start? Well, it starts in Boston, right? The Seventh Inn and gathering places where people are trying to explore this new Asawa philosophy. And then way later on, an East-West Center opens up in Houston, Texas in the 70s. And then 2 people from Houston come to Austin and start the East-West Center of Austin in 1984. Miraculously, a friend of mine takes me there when it had just started. And something very fortunate happened to me. I went broke. It was a huge recession that took all my businesses down. I had plenty of time. I became a volunteer there. And then when I truly got immersed in it is when I started reading Osawa. And so then, again, that started in 1984. 1989, it burns to the ground,
Oh,
gone. And so a friend of mine and I, Marianne Justman, she was a good cook, and I was the purveyor and dishwasher and pot washer and everything else. And we started feeding people out of our house. And by the way, Marianne, she also had a lot of plants, and environment is important. I must admit, and that connection, like Mike, what is it, Mike or Mick?
Mike.
Mick, like Mick was saying, the plants, that holy communion that we have with plants is so important. So Marianne starts cooking out of her house. She and I start doing that, waiting for the board of directors to resuscitate the East-West Center. And they raised a lot of money. Tom Cruise, the famous actor, donated $40,000, which
Wow.
today would have been like $150,000. And they opened up a macrobotic house with that money. However, in that macrobotic house, they would have a weekly dinner by reservation, maximum 5 people, which was hardly the spirit of the place. So here I'll interject that the place is really an open system. Anybody can come anytime. Casa Del Luz is open every single day of the year. We used to close on Christmas Eve, but about 10 years ago, I needed to get a meal. So I went and opened things up and was eating leftovers, and I ended up serving 25 people that night. And from then on, we've been open every single meal of every single day of just, because what we're putting forth is coming home. And like Marion was saying, that feeling that this is your place. Fundamentally, it's very important that it be a nonprofit. So it's very much like a church, but without a man dressed in a robe with lots of ornate things, teaching people. We all teach each other. We sit at community tables. The food is very central, but there are so many other activities happening in the grounds. It's vibrant, it's growing, which is another reason I'm so celebrating that there's a second one, because if too many people come, it would lose that intimacy that we're experiencing. Woody Allen said, let's not go to that restaurant. Nobody goes there anymore. It's too full. So yeah, we need, I think Victor Hugo said, there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And I'm saying that experientially, because I see how people are coming to Casa Del Luz by the droves. I mean, we're getting new people. It used to be that I knew everybody. Now we get new people all the time, but it only takes about a nanosecond for me to feel like I've known them forever. And I can always, my antenna already know who's new, who hasn't come before. And then I get up from my table and I go welcome them. And within moments, we're connected. Another very important factor is we do no advertising. So anybody that comes has already set an intention. They bring that intention, and that intention is what creates that vibe, along with the plants and everything else that Marion was alluding to. It's the people and their children and their dogs. Dogs and children, they're those beings that we all want to emulate, to be childlike, to be free of that prejudicial judgment that limits our existence. And well,
Yeah. So
I wrote something this morning. I said, I don't want to really read anything to the group, but I'm constantly doing this. I'm constantly going to AI. I write something with complete abandon, so it lets me just flow, and then it writes it back to me in a coherent fashion.
okay.
So if you'll give me, it'll take 2 minutes, I think. So here we go. At first glance, it might seem like any other dining experience, but Casa Luz Village stands apart from conventional restaurants in fundamental ways. This distinction is crucial as we strive to foster a profound change in both humanity and our environment. In the modern food industry, natural flavors derived from plants can be replicated in laboratories. By analyzing a plant's flavor profile with spectroscopy and manipulating chemicals to match it, the industry creates synthetic tastes that mimic nature. Similarly, the process of natural foods like oats into commercial oatmeal involves cooking, flaking, dehydrating, which strips away much of the food's life force. Yet it is still touted as a health food. Moreover, traditional restaurant environments often use aromatic cues like frying oil to stimulate the pleasure sensors in the brain, convincing diners of the meal's deliciousness, despite potential discomforts like indigestion or sleepless nights that will follow. And I'll add to this, and it'll also follow that you will end up with catastrophic illnesses like diabetes, heart disease, dementia. Continuing my reading. However, when you enter the dining room at Casa de Luz Village, you may think you're just in another restaurant, but the reality is profoundly different. Casa de Luz is not a restaurant in the traditional sense. It doesn't aim to stimulate fleeting sensory pleasures, but focuses on nourishing body, mind, and spirit. Here, the food is not merely consumed, but experienced, emphasizing the connection to natural, unaltered state. This approach presents a challenge as we attempt to shift the public perception and habits. Casa Luz embodies a simple yet revolutionary concept to change the way we interact with our food and, by extension, our environment. It's not just about eating, but about learning to live in harmony with nature and our communities. Embracing this concept requires us to rethink what we know about eating out and to recognize the deeper impact of our food choices. As we move forward, our goal is not to serve meals, but to inspire a broader transformation, a redefinition of health and well-being in our society. Casa de Luz is more than a dining space. It's a model for sustainable living and a testament to the power of conscious consumption.
Mhm. Mhm.
I hope that reading wasn't too boring.
No, very good.
So we're going to have manuals that are coming together, videos that illustrate what it is to inspire other communities to join the effort and create these spaces with this model, not to follow the model as in a recipe. In our community book where we have recipes, we say, use the recipe only initially, but always keep in touch with your instincts, because when you're dealing with natural foods, they're always changing, and you need to abandon the recipe and bring your instincts into your cooking. So in the same way, we're going to have these manuals, but emphasizing that as we grow these centers around the world, that we have regular conferences, wonderful conferences. Like I can see a yearly conference at a beautiful spa where all of us get together and we talk how we can make it better.
Hmm.
And in the thinking of how we can make it better is the lack of dogma. Always thinking, how can we make it better?
What would be an example of dogma?
Oil. So I was sharing with Ganat that in one of my early involvement with this new group that's gathered, they were talking about, well, what is the best oil? And lots of discussion as to, safflower oil does this and olive oil does that. I was raised in a highly industrial, commercial, entrepreneurish family. I got to build a vegetable oil factory, and we were involved in, we were one of the major producers of vegetable oil in Mexico. I know oil intimately. I know how it's made. I know that it's a fractured, industrialized food. I know that every facility had to have a laboratory to monitor closely the oxidation of the oil, which of course becomes a carcinogen. The whole extraction process is an ugly business. But my religion, and parenthetically, religion comes from Latin religare. So re, again, ligare, to bind, to rebind, to bring back together. So from this industrialized, fractured way of living that industry has besought, or what's the word, wrought upon humanity, it is a fractured way of thinking, where foods need a list of ingredients, labels, warning, lies. Like, people are selling junk food because they call it gluten-free. Give me a break, So everything at Casa Luz, no labels, no list of ingredients, because a carrot is just a carrot. So back to the oil and dogma. We at Casa Luz, and this ended maybe 15, 17, 18 years ago, where I went, we're being dogmatic about oil. It's not a good food. It's not meant to be. We're not meant to eat food that's fractured and industrialized and bottled and enhanced shelf life. And by the way, in the tricks that we did in the business, out of the same spigot, we would fill bottles of oil, but we do different labels with different prices. It's just because that's the marketplace. The marketplace that you put a nice label, you charge more. A more humble label, so that way you could hit two markets. You could call it false, but we were just responding to the marketplace. But the whole idea of oil just hit me like a ton of bricks. Immediately, we stopped using oil, or so I thought, because to change habits was difficult. Even our cooks would sneak it in. They bring in their oil. They wouldn't believe me. How can you cook something without oil? We're so indoctrinated and habituated and rooted in these ideas. Dogma,
So baked flour products?
No flour.
No flour.
And miraculously, because we followed these things from the outset, and I'm talking 40 years ago, we had a rabbi come in and we're kosher. We didn't set out to be kosher, but we're kosher because the basic tenets of macrobiotics that we employed were true. We've walked the talk. I walked the talk. And that's integrity. Oh, by the way, if you go to Casa Luz, the sign says Casa Luz Center for Integral Studies. Now I got that name from in Boulder, there's this place called Institute for Integral Studies. I said, that's a pretty good name. Integral, again, the gestalt, the oneness, the bringing back together, the religiosity. Oh no, that's a Bill Maher movie that makes fun of religion. But that bringing it together is so incredibly powerful. I'll give you another example. We all know that salt is sodium chloride and less than 1% of some 80 minerals. But the moment people harvest salt and it's not clean and they wash it, and like Morton's, they need for it to flow when it rains. What is it? What's the?
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah, we need for it to pour when it rains because they take the minerals out. Isn't it miraculous that less than 1% of the minerals makes all the difference? And the same with that oat or that food. The moment that it's industrialized, we're no longer talking plants. Now, before we opened this up, I was telling Ganat, I've reached a point where what's put on my plate, I can no longer look at as food. I look at it as plants. Because by calling it plants, I'm addressing its wholeness. It's an integrity as a living being that is our sacred connection with a microbiome, i.e. Mother Earth. That sets our compass. That sets our direction. That sets our sails. It's that holy communion that we have that somehow all these new centers that I see happening soon enough are going to exude. So we keep a very simple environment. There's not a lot of art or anything on the walls. The environment is very curated to be gentle, quiet, open, because we have a very, very open kitchen.
You have
Hmm?
their music in the background?
There's music in the background, highly curated. The tempo has to be less than 60 beats per second, which is our heart rate. You know, I don't know, you all remember Lino's tapes that would ding every 60 seconds. So you would chew for 60 seconds, ding, you could swallow it and start all over again. So yeah, it's highly curated. We've experimented in all kinds of ways. And again, no dogma. So we have this one person who receives people at the entrance. People pay, mostly we try to get away from cash. Some people get a gift card. That way they don't have to deal with that. A lot of our daily diners that walk through and they just signal to the host and they get marked down. So we can get away from all that commercial aspect of it. But these people are also, we used to call them managers. And I said, you know, we can't call them managers. That's too much of a business term. So we changed the term to host. So the host is taught that everything changes. So even our music, when it's being played low and gentle, there's times when the dining room gets full and people start talking louder, we turn off the music and the whole decibel level goes down. You turn it on, the decibel level goes up. So
You
40
might want to mention also about the seating plan,
the what plan?
the seating, how people sit.
Oh my gosh, yes, very important. Every table is a community table. We have table tents that invite people to, if they see somebody sitting alone, to come sit with them. Our hosts have that duty to go and tell someone, you know, you're welcome to go sit with this group that they'd like to have you. I do that every day. Every day, and something I've noticed, there's always a degree of discomfort when you go sit with people you don't know. But at Casa Luz, it takes nanoseconds before the warmth overtakes everyone. And there's this wonderful connection that happens. Marion, can you echo any of this that I'm talking about?
I've been holding my breath waiting to talk. But it's like, I would describe the energy, not so much as gentle, it is gentle, but I would describe it as soft. It's really, it's the architecture also. I mean, the way the place is built, the materials it's built out of, there's a lot of wood. It's really comforting to be in that room. The lighting is soft as well. It's really, and the whole thing about the community tables is really fantastic. I don't know if you've changed it, but there were always a few tables where two people could sit alone if they wanted to, but now it's, you know, but most of the tables are community tables. You sit wherever with whoever, and you get to know other people, and there's all these interactions you wouldn't normally have in your day, which is really beautiful. And aside from the food and the whole thing of the kitchen being open, you can see exactly what they're doing in the kitchen. There's nothing hidden. When you walk in and you go get your food, you see what they're doing. I mean, you see it's the whole thing is one big communal energy. And
Something very, very important that is so subtle yet so powerful. Everybody's eating the same meal. That's a huge factor in the connectivity that occurs at that table. If you're sitting with somebody at a restaurant, and some people are eating steak and others are eating salad, it creates disconnection. You know, everybody's taking in a different vibration. So the vibratory quality is that equalizer. I happened to be visiting in Cuba because this one friend of mine wanted to import Havana Club, and I'm a Mexican citizen. So he wanted a Mexican citizen to import it to Mexico to bring it into the United States. Sorry about that little deviation, but that's only an introduction to tell you that we actually went to the Central Committee where Castro has his office and all his people were there and met there. And I very proudly told one of Castro's pals, I said, I'm involved in a communist organization in Austin, Texas. It didn't matter to him. You know, communism is not really communism as in the true sense of the word. But I was able to tell him that because that commonality, same root word for communion, same word for community, that we're all eating the same meal. Nobody's getting anything better than anyone else. There's no hierarchy. We really work hard at hierarchy. And by the way, that another thing I really wanted to mention to the group, because I'm expecting that I'm planting seeds out there with all of you. And the seed is one that you're going to be inspired to get your group of people together in your community and say, we can do one of these. So what's been a big challenge to me is to not be at the center of the wheel. So we're all habituated to walk into a place, and I get this every day. People coming up to me and say, I love your restaurant. And my standard response is, thank you. But one, it's not mine. It's a nonprofit, and nonprofits don't have owners. And two, it's not a restaurant. And unless you can eliminate that, oh, did y'all see that? Watch. See. Did y'all see the bubbles?
Yeah.
The balloons? I
Yeah.
forgot what I did. Anyway, yeah, it's an important component to get people out of the habituated way of thinking that one person did the endeavor. George Osawa and even Michio Kushi in the book of Macrobox has that spiral of all the different teachers, starting with Hippocrates and Ishikawa, and then, y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're all taking from our ancestors, and some of the group here, I see Jane is there and Ganat, and we're re-looking at what macrobotics is and why it's waned. But I'm sitting there and saying it's not waned; it's totally alive and vibrant at Casa Del Sol. It's just that we don't wear it on our sleeve. But it's very much the heart and spirit of the place. Anyway, going back to something that I think is really important is that it is community built. Yes, the plants are wonderful, but if you do a Casa de Luz, and it could be out of your house like we did in the 80s at Marianne's house, where we were just cooking out of a stamp-sized kitchen and serving 25 people at a time. It's the vibe of the people that come, that intention that people set when they decide to come to such a place.
So Eduardo, do you have a bigger goal in addition to Casa de Luz and the food and how it's set up and what you've created? Do you have a larger picture or
Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. I want to spend the rest of my life putting together well, the organization already exists. I already have a 501c3 organization. We're going to go to different cities, and we get invited by any one of you to come with all our materials and present to you what you can do in your town and help you do it. That's what we're going to be doing. That's what this organization is going to be doing. You know, I often reflect on the United States initiative to have affordable health care. And that whole idea is so ludicrous based on Western medicine, medications, interventions that are symptomatic, not going to the root cause, not inexpensive. You can never make it inexpensive because actually that whole affordable health care plan is what's got us in the trouble that we're in. Because when people are not eating right and they're given medicines to overcome the consequences of not eating right, is what keeps them not eating right. It's self-perpetuating. We've got to get the eating right. We've got to have that close communion with Mother Nature. And like most of you, for all these years, we have all experienced the power of this humble and simple way of connecting with Mother Earth by eating plants that did not go through a factory, which now I deem to be sacrilegious and disconcerting to our whole being, that we take in anything that its life force was obliterated through a machine. We've got to change that whole way of thinking. And the way to do it, and this is the big picture that you're asking me about, Ginat, my big plan is to convey this idea. So simple, yet so difficult. And sometimes, here's the thing, to change these ideas is transgenerational. Sometimes you can't do it in one generation. It's going to take several generations. So what can we do to make it happen sooner? And so my response to that is to have these places where people don't have to think. They don't have to do it intellectually. They don't have to go take a class on macrobiotics and then go to the grocery store, buy all the ingredients, half of the ingredients go bad, and then you're all flustered because you can't put that meal together. So when people come and they dine communally, like Marion was saying, they will get it at the cellular level. This is the way to educate people macrobiotically. It's not with our words, it's with that experience of coming together in community. Because the best sauce is to be there with a family. Eating alone is such a sad affair, you know, and in today's world, let me go back in history a bit. When we were tribal, and go back as far as you think we need to go back to be tribal, it happened differently in different parts of the world. Let's just take America. The Native Americans lived in teepees and they all lived together. I don't know if they dined together, but they probably did. They were all eating the same thing. And there were no grocery stores. So they were eating close to the earth. They respected the earth. So that way of tribal eating is what we've lost. That tribal eating happens at Casa Del Luz. So it's throughout millennia in the evolution of humans, this is how we came to be connected. And so, at Casa Del Luz, I call the mortal sin, the disconnection. Wars happen because of disconnection. How can anybody eat an animal if they've made them their pet? If they created that connection with that cow or that calf or that kitten or or with that escargot. I mean, even a snail can be your pet. All our languaging. Everybody. By the way, the buildings that we occupy, when we found them, they were abandoned. They had been abandoned 13 years. They had been a meat packing factory. Do I hear any gasps?
That's changing karma. Very good.
And the new Casa de Luz that just opened up was an abandoned a halfway house. I mean, that's really cool, everybody. You know, when you can take a building and repurpose it. You know, don't go. Oh, I have a confession to make. So my son and I did want to replicate Casa de Luz, and we went to San Diego. Marian, you went to San Diego, didn't you? No? Well, we did Casa de Luz in
I didn't go there, but I knew when you were doing that.
Well, we did it. My son and I had extended discussions on whether it should be I wanted it to be a nonprofit. He wanted it to be for profit. His argument is, look, with money, then we can do others. And for 2 years, we lost immense amount of money. For profit, lose money. Not for profit, Austin, Texas, I get fed for free every day. I don't take money, but gosh, there's nothing more valuable than being in that community. So, ironic.
Well, Eduardo, if you don't mind me, I'm jumping in again. And also I invite everyone, we don't need to mute for this talk. Just feel free to participate. I'm wondering about leadership roles, because it would be wonderful to replicate and duplicate and multiply this experience. But what does it take to step up, to be a leader? Do you have to have entrepreneurial skills, or what does it take?
That's a really wonderful question, because I don't have an answer. You know, we always say it's a great question when we don't have an answer. And that's what I'm going to be working on, putting all that information together. I already have I'm saying I'm going to work on it. I already have copious amounts of work, and I'm giving it all to AI to bring it all together, weave it all together. And I worked on it this morning. And that's what I'm going to take out to communities. One thing that I find the most difficult is to have group leadership. And that's not an easy thing, because we're not used to that. But, you know, again, I know that we're an international group here, but referring to the United States, the founding fathers would go to this tribe. Anybody pitch in who that tribe was? Further north from New York, they had the Longhouse, and they decided things in community. The leadership was not one person. You know, we're all frustrated in the United States with the fact that we had to elect two nincompoops for one person to lead 300 million people. That system is all wrong. It's not who we're going to elect here. It's the system is wrong, that we feel that there has to be that type of hierarchy. So going back to your question, look, I don't know how it's going to go, but my ideal idea is that if you get a group of people together that are passionate about wellness, you know, my goal in life is not how long I live. I just want to be healthy till the day I die, or as close to the day that I die. I believe Lino accomplished that. In fact, not that I believe it, Jane told me. Jane, are you there? There she was. Oh, she's gonna unmute. Yeah. Hi, Jane. You know, the big is to live like Lino with a passion and make it to the end. And that's what we're all about. And if we could, and doing it in community makes it easy. If you go out and try to change your eating habits by yourself, I think you know, I've been listening to two brothers, see if anybody knows them, and if you haven't, jot it down. Ray and Dennis Noble. They study they're microbiologists, and they know everything about our origin. And they say there's, you know, if you come up to a mountain and you see this sheer cliff and you think you can just go jump up and be at the top, well, that makes it very difficult. But then you find that you can go to the other side of the mountain and it's a slope and you can go up it gradually. Well, one of the things that Casa de Luz does is we can short circuit that effort. It's amazing how easy it is to change your habit when it's like you go to a dinner party with people that you love and you don't question what's being served. I mean, generally. And it's so easy to go ahead and eat a meal with non-processed food, plants that weren't industrialized, and you're just happy to be there. By the way, we do have a secret, and that is that we do process our nuts and seeds every day. It's fresh every day. It's amazing how much that fills the taste buds that are missing for not using a processed oil or strong spices and salts and other things. Anyway, your question again, Ganat, was, the leadership.
Yeah, and I'd like to also invite Jane if you have any comments. Be happy to hear.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
My husband Lino and I visited Casa de Luz several times, and it was one of the highlights of our macrobiotic journey and probably our life. It's aptly named because, as you know, Casa de Luz is the house of light, and it's a spiritual experience. It's a deeply beautiful, warm, indigenous. It's stepping into the indigenous world, into the world of nature, in community. By the way, the Native Americans that influenced our founding fathers were the Iroquois, and they had the Iroquois Confederacy. And our founding fathers took a lot of their format, their wisdom into the development of our country. And thank you for mentioning that, Eduardo. And thank you for so many things. Casa de Luz is, and when we were there, he used to say it's not a restaurant, it's a center, it's a community. It's a compound with education, conference areas, consultation areas, and then, of course, the beautiful, beautiful restaurant. And you've been there, right, Ganat?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. And it does have a Southwestern flair, but it's food that's indigenous to that part of the country, to the Southwest. And it's just a beautiful experience. That's really all I'd like to interject now. I hope that Eduardo can spread this concept throughout the United States and perhaps further, maybe even in Israel or around Europe. And centers to me are the way that we can join together as a community and eat together, enjoy basic, wonderful plant-based foods that are raised with integrity, eaten with integrity. And Casa de Luz in Austin is the perfect example of this. It's successful really in every way. And I hope and pray that Eduardo will come to Asheville, come to other cities, but I'm going to stick to him coming to Asheville to create a center here. And he knows he's invited and welcomed whenever he decides to come. Thank you.
Jane, thank you. And I'm going to go back to the information that a second one has been created faithfully. It's so important. For me, that is so major because I didn't know what would happen if a second one would be opened. It's really important that everyone understand. By the way, it's not Eduardo creating Casa de Luz, it's all of us. So it's on you, my dear friends. It's on you to take this idea. Maybe you don't do it, but you know other people that will. Have gatherings, and we will provide you the information to inspire these things to happen. What's so important that a second one got built. And by the way, you walk in and you see all the markings of the original. Again, I want to say no dogma, because as they find something better to do, we're committed to each other, as we will be committed to each other when there's many, to share, always share what it is that we could do better, so that we all improve as we go along. Or we find something that wasn't working. Give you an example of something that wasn't working. For up to the pandemic, which was up 30 years, we refused to use any containers, to-go containers, that were disposable. We only use reusable. Pandemic comes, by the way, we didn't close a single day during the pandemic. Even though the government was closing places down, we knew that that was the most important time to stay open. It was a pandemic of the lonely. It was a pandemic of the fracturization of our societies, the things that keep us healthy. What insanity, what insanity. Well, we stayed open, but it did change some things. We kind of slid into using disposable containers. Well, it was about 10 days ago. By the way, it happens maybe once a year that I put my foot down and I said, no more to-go disposable containers. We can't do it. It's against our principles. There was a time in the past when, oh, by the way, let me tell you where I'm going with this. When you walk the ridge of the mountain, there's only one way to fall.
Down.
So the ridge of the mountain is a slippery slope. And we've got to be watchful and vigilant that we don't slip, because we do. There was a time that this one woman came, delightful woman, and she started making scones. And they were done with supposedly good ingredients, but she was using almond flour instead of wheat flour, and using rice syrup instead of sugar. You know, the health foods that are not health foods. And it happened for about a year. And it was one of those times when I said, what are we doing? We slipped off the slope. And I ended that. Marian, did you ever get to experience those brunches with the pancakes?
Uh,
So on the weekend, pancakes came to me. I didn't ask for it. You see, in this formula of being community run, these things come in, and the slope gets slipperier. What's the word?
Slippier.
You got it. And we started doing pancakes. Yes, they were done with almond flour, and the syrup was fruit, just plain fruit, no sweetener. But we would have feeding frenzies. People would line up for these. It would make people sick. My friends, the ones that were really, awake, I have them and I got to go home and take a nap because it get the sugar spike. And that's one of the things that we had to end. So these things will happen. But leadership, back to your question, and I'm really proud of myself because I'm not losing the central idea. We do it as a group, but there's always got to be people on the vanguard to see where we slip. And as a family, when we live in a family, we can't see ourselves. We got to get feedback from others, somebody from the outside looking in. And you'd be amazed how many regulars at Casa Del Sol are on the vanguard. So we are accomplishing that community-driven leadership that you were asking about, Kanat.
Mhm.
Eduardo, in the old days, if I remember correctly, you were serving 1,000 lunches a day.
No, we're doing about 500 people a day.
No. In the old days,
No,
No?
500's been like,
very consistent. And now you're serving 3 meals a day?
Oh, I get it. Yes, okay. So some 12 years ago, we were serving lunch from 12 to 2, then we were serving dinner from 6 to 8. And Thanksgiving was our most popular meal. And I came up with the idea, let's just serve nonstop, because that way we can spread people out. We get so full. And it worked so easily. Then the next day we started serving continuously. So it's been over a decade that we serve from 7 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. nonstop.
Incredible.
And so here's how it works. Our cooks are so transgenerational. I mean, the children of the early cooks are now cooking, and they can do it so easily and intuitively. We don't follow recipes. There's no measuring of anything. It's just amazing. And what we do is we cook enough for a certain amount of people. And as things are going, they know how to start cooking the next meal. And so we don't go from, we call it going from soup A to soup B. So we finish soup A before we start serving soup B. So unlike Whole Foods, where they have their prepared foods and they'll put it away and serve it the next day, we always run out. We're always running out and cooking anew. So food is always fresh. It's just something that's very hard to accomplish in one's own kitchen and with one's own family, which is why although we're not setting out to supplant the family meal, I feel vindicated by the idea of the Iroquois that probably ate together and probably fixed their food together. Our supply, we get produce every single day. Every single day, produce is coming in, and we've got this comical fellow who receives it. He's from Mexico, and I can't even describe him. He sends back 10% of what comes in. If he detects any lack of life form, any wilting, back it goes. We're totally vigilant on the life force of the plants that come in.
Bravo.
Gannat, I mentioned to you about how I don't call food anymore. Did I mention that to the whole group?
Yeah, plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, just calling them plants has changed a lot inside of me and the wholeness of me. Was it Kierkegaard or was it Nietzsche who said, "You label me, you negate me"? And so I think the moment that we label what's on our plate food, we negate what it really is. In that reverence that Jane was talking about, in that holiest of moments, and I use holy, in my mind, I always see holy, Holy, and Wholly, like together. They're not two, they're one. So in that holiness of seeing my plate and acknowledging the plants changes my whole experience with that interaction. I like to tell people that I get more vegan every day. Although I haven't eaten any animals, any of their eggs, or any of their milk in 40 years, I get more vegan in that I may be deluding myself, but I feel a lot of clarity. I feel a lot of connection. The vibrancy of that interaction with others, that increasing love, that loss of judgment, that enhanced way of when somebody does something I used to call wrong. Now I go into, like, automatically I go into, where did they come from in that expression of who they're being at that moment. So all to say that the more I go away or separate myself from having been that hunter that went to Africa and killed the gentlest of all creatures, an elephant, and many, to mount them on your wall. I remember selling my elephant tusk to my brothers for $80,000. I should have buried them and they had a huge ceremony, you know, $80,000. The more I get away from that life, the more all these things that we value seem to increase.
How,
I-
Eduardo, how do
You know, I'm
you,
preaching to the choir, by the way. I know I'm preaching to the choir, so please.
well, how,
my-
I want to ask, how do you integrate macrobiotic concepts or lifestyle, we could say, or ideas into the daily practice, the daily restaurant? And also, before I forget, I'll restate that question if you like. I want to mention to all of us that on the last Sunday of this month, today is the first Sunday, and on the last Sunday of this month, which is July 28th, a Casa Del Sol chef is going to guide us. In each one of us, we'll send out recipes, and each one of us will work in his or her own kitchen and create the dishes that the chef is going to lead us in. So we'll have a cooking experience with
Is,
Gabby.
is this a signature? Is this a signature meal from Casa de Luz?
This is up to the chef, Gabby Martinez, and we'll see what she figures out. What she
Okay,
wants.
all right.
Gabi grew up there. She was born there. She grew up there. It's utterly amazing. Your question is macrobiotics. Absolutely, macrobiotics is fundamental to the whole place. And the way it manifests is with the scarce art that we have on the walls, the bookstore that carries all the books. I don't care if they sell or not, just their presence there. You know, Osawa, Kushi, Ayahara books are all there. And when I got involved with the macrobiotic transformers, I said, you know, I'm gonna up the flame a little bit. And so I took the book of macrobiotics and featured it at the front desk where people arrive. We immediately sold out of them. Yeah. The Keith Mitchell book, Practically Macrobiotics, what an angelic figure that man was with that book and his heart. So back then it was illegal to go to the print store and have his pages printed because it would be copyright infringement. Today it's been way more than 25 years, so now we're legal. But I had to share it, and wherever Keith Mitchell is, I hope he's thanking us that we've taken his art, never forgetting that he put that together, that group of quotes from George Osawa. You know, everything that happens to us is what we lack. Treat sickness like health, treat poverty like wealth. Y'all familiar with that? The man that embraces
Maybe I can find the book. Go ahead.
the man that embraces his antagonist is the happiest man. Of course, I never say man, I always say like the human, you know, because times have changed. It's just a wonderful, wonderful book. And I don't know if I've completely answered Ganat's question, but yes, macrobiotics is always there in the background, always there as a foundational idea, and will always be honored in Casa Del Sol today and in the future.
Yeah, I can see in the way that you describe the experience. I can see that the food is first level in you know, using the Osawan series of judgments. The experience
The book up
of the
again.
interior, the experience of the interior would be the second level. There it is, practically macrobiotic. The third level is the community seating. Community seating, the third level, and the fourth level, the intellectual level, would be the interchange, the conversational interchange among the table members. The fifth level, the social level, the back and forth, that might get a little bit complicated. And the sixth level, which is the philosophical, is what you put on the front desk, you see. You know, how to do it. It's sold out immediately. Sold out immediately. So to answer Ginat's question, I think you did very, very well. You know, bringing all of those items to us. But the fifth level, antagonism and complementarity, that's something really to reflect on.
Yeah. Indeed. Beautifully said, Mick.
Hmm.
I'm glad this is being recorded because I'm going to go back to that and put it down on paper.
Yeah, if you know, and then you can do an I Ching analysis, and if you say, well, 5 of the 6 levels are yang, that one level, the 5th level, is yin. The hexagram that you come up with is possession in great measure.
Yeah. By the way, are y'all familiar with the Hermetic teachings, Hermes Trismegistus, and
Sure.
the Kabbalion?
Yeah.
I've been going back to that, and same principles. You know, there is universality. I love macrobiotics, but these are universal ideas. I see them over and over again in all the different disciplines that are. So what is it about macrobiotics that's special? I was telling Ganat, well, maybe it's nostalgic because it changed my life, and I know it changed the life of our group, Ganat. But you know, the word is wonderful, the great life, and everything that we do to that we incorporate in our lives to create is macrobiotics. I'd love to hear any feedback as we move forward.
Yeah, the Osawa put the systematic presentation of yin and yang at the forefront of his intellectual work, and he called that the magic spectacles. So it's not surprising at all that you can go to the Kabbalah, which is what Madonna did, right? Madonna was deep into macro, and then she ended up doing the Kabbalah also. You can go to other systems that are very fundamental, and you can see the same principles there. It's not surprising.
Mhm.
Who else? Let's open up the talk. Questions, comments, ideas. Why don't you go ahead, everyone, and unmute yourselves? Let's see if we can get a discussion.
A couple months ago, we had someone from Iona speak, and she did not present 100% glowing picture. There were challenges, and I wonder if you're familiar with these kind of challenges, and what do you do?
What are your challenges, Eduardo? Yeah, very good.
Well, the man that embraces his antagonist is the happiest man. Every challenge is that opportunity. Every challenge, I got it mostly down. In my regular life out there, I've got it mostly down, except when it comes to the mother of my children.
That's huge.
Yeah, well, the closer it is to your house, the harder it gets. But out there, challenges are only opportunities. I mean, I get it like that. The moment somebody comes, oh, that somebody did this to that person, and there's a challenge, I immediately see the opportunity. That thanks to that event, we get to go higher in our way of being. And of course, my confession is that that emotional body of ours, that limbic brain that gets in the way of letting Spirit come and give us the answers where it gets difficult. But mostly in operating Casa de Luz, every challenge is an opportunity. There's no frowning about it. Immediately, I just say yes. Give me more of this. Give me more of this. So when everything is going hunky dory, I don't like that term, but there. We get complacent. We get sleepy.
And personality conflicts, people, rubbing each other the wrong way.
It happens. It happens, but in our little bubble, less than in the rest of the world. I'll share with you something. There was this one fellow who came to me, and he said that he came in and the host didn't treat him quite right. And he says, in the world out there, things like that happen to me and they're nothing. They don't affect me in the slightest. But when I come to Casa de Luz, all my protective shields, my defensive shields are down. And when anything like that happens, it goes right to my heart. So there's that duality. You open up your shields and you become vulnerable. And it's okay, because, how else are we going to feel those wonderful things? Khalil Gibran said, our sorrows will only cut grooves in our being that will later be filled with joy. And that's the life that we live. You open up, you become vulnerable, and it's going to hurt more. That's answering my question about the mother of my children. I call her the mother of my children because she never wanted to get married, and I wanted to go traditional, a little family, but the bigger family was really Casa de Luz. Then I can go the rest of my life with this one big family, and a lot less of that strife that we're talking about, Clara. Did I kind of cover what you asked?
Maybe I could talk to you privately about my own private challenges.
I'm available.
Ionia is a residential community, though, right, Clara?
Right.
And the Casa de Luz is not.
I know.
Right. Yeah,
But-
we're not dealing with the residential community.
But I'll tell you something that's happened. When we went there, this whole area was derelict. The only people you saw there were the homeless. And in the 33 years that we've been in this location, completely next door is 250 residences. An apartment building. To the other side, not completely contiguous, but 2 lots over, another 250 residences, condominiums. A block away, another 250 apartments. On the other side, there's another. Right now, we've got 1,500 residences within a 2-block radius when there was nothing before. Now, initially, when all these things were being built, you'd have people come and live there that were clueless that there was this community center. As the years go by, people start to discover it. And as they live there, of course, they're naturally curious. They'll walk in, maybe experience it a little bit, maybe experience it a lot, but it's morphing. More and more people are coming to live there because of the community center. More and more people that went to live there that didn't think they wanted this lifestyle have adopted it. And more we're getting the Ionia effect. Now, Ionia, they live under the same roof. Mostly, I know their buildings. I haven't been there. I visit their website. Steve Lavandowski, who goes and visits them often, tells me all about it. Living under the same roof brings a whole level of challenges. Very much like me and the mother of my children. Then you have to deal with, did you leave the toilet seat up or down? So I don't know too much about that, but but generally people are now living in our area, which is, Now, were we the catalyst? Were we the reason that all these people came to be, or was it just bound to happen? I don't know, and I really don't care, but I always imagined this village, and I'm seeing it happen here. So, the chicken or the egg, I know that we came first. By the way, remember me mentioning the Noble brothers?
No,
They had the answer for the chicken and the egg. You know what
How
the
did
answer?
they answer that?
The egg came first, but the egg did not come from a chicken.
Yeah.
Have you all heard that? So that's evolution. That's evolution. Those are the variants that happen, and they either prosper or they don't.
Yeah, I got involved with the Casa. Years ago, you had a campaign to write the then mayor about the parking ordinance. You remember that?
It's still happening. And let me tell you, the city has had us on their crosshairs for 20 years. To this day, they have actually put a sign and closed us. We were closed for about an hour, and then we moved forces and got removed. That talk about Clara talking about challenges, but it keeps you on your toes. And anytime we stick our neck out, we're taking a chance, and there's going to be naysayers and people who don't want to see it change. The couch potato doesn't want you to go out there jogging.
Did it ever get resolved with the fire marshal?
We're still dealing with it. Right now, we're on a fire watch where every hour we have to write down that we're watching to see that there's no fire. Oh my gosh, the bureaucracy of it all. But that's the world we live in, and but we feel that this path is a path towards more wisdom, a better way to interact with all things. It's the craziness of industrialization. You eat industrialized food, you're going to have industrialized thought. You eat fractured food, you're going to have fractured thought. We need to be whole. We need to become whole. And that's why wellness community centers throughout the world. Is it that idea whose time has come?
I think about that concept a lot.
Hold on a second.
I was thinking about how the world, as far as I can tell, seems to be moving to the right and to more conservative. And in Israel, we're having a war as opposed to a peace. So are these all events whose time has come? Is this the way that the world is developing? Or is it something that we can influence and move the world, or move, not the world, but culture and society?
Humanity. We have agency with humanity. The planet is okay. It's self-correcting, and so are we. But the pendulum is swinging for humanity. We swung towards industrialization. We're swinging the other way.
Sounds like a lot.
Wait, I'm gonna just, Clara, okay.
We're seizing the moment, Ganat. We're seizing the moment. Now in my part of the world, and again, I know we're a very international group, but in our bubble, it's swinging. It's swinging I'm not going to call it right or left. I'm just going to say we're swinging towards that sacred connection of being in harmony with nature. By the way, thanks a lot for those quotes that you ascribed to me on your introduction. I thought they were.
Yeah. We have a fairly rightist leader here in Israel, and in the US, who knows with the election what's going to develop if you're going to choose, or US will choose the rightist leader. So putting sometimes it, or not some, it seems like the deeper we go, the more we can rise up. The more the difficulties and the more the challenges, the more the opportunity. And that sounds trite and yeah, easy, but how you do it? And yeah.
It is so powerful.
Well, my view right now, as far as agency is concerned, with our US elections, is that from my point of view, I want to inspire as many people as possible to have agency and to take action so that we don't wind up in a dictatorship with King Trump. I mean, that's my plan of action that I've already put into view since last Monday's Supreme Court decision here, giving Trump immunity, basically. But to me, I have to do for myself as much as I possibly can over the next 4 months. And I want to try to influence as many people as possible to do the same. And so that's what I've been doing. And as far as Israel goes, I mean, I'm a citizen of Israel also. I don't live there now, but I got citizenship when I did live there. And, you know, I think, you know, Biden has lost a lot of votes he could have had with continuing to send weapons to Israel. And he hasn't done himself any favors that way as far as getting elected again. And the people, there's a lot of people in Israel who are not happy with what Netanyahu is doing one way and another with his bid to take over the court and to, you know, the war he's promoting. Well, it's not even a war, it's just genocide in Gaza. So, I mean, so that right now there's a lot that the people around the world, and especially in the United States and Israel, can be doing.
So you've stood up, you've taken leadership, you've stepped up.
Yeah, I think it's important because I do not want to see Trump as the next president of the United States.
And what
Well,
do you want to
as
see?
much as there's top down, in my world, I think bottom up is going to be what's going to change things. And again, we've all, some of us have already spoken. We got to start with our plants. We got to go back to a whole plant diet. And I can't think of a better way than to have these centers proliferate.
Mhm.
How
Well-
soon can you get here?
So from this August cruise, how many East-West centers were there ever in the world? I've never gotten anybody to be able to tell me that.
Same thing, how many macrobiotic people, we can't know, nor do we know what that means.
I know. Remember the old, how long you are macrobiotic?
Well, I will interject a little bit. Michio Kushi attempted to create Kushi institutes around the world at a very large gathering we had. It may have been at his center in Beckett, where he actually had contracts to give to people to create Kushi institutes. Lino and I declined, as did most, because I think macrobotics fosters independence and thought and individuality and creativity. There were some who took up the banner. Adalbert Nielsen in Holland created a Kushi Institute. And to my memory, I believe he may have been the only one. There were East-West centers in London and around. Whether they were part of the corporation of the Kushi Institute, I'm sorry, I don't know. If any of you can remember or recall other Kushi institutes, please interject. But again, Macrobox fosters a great deal of inner strength and individuality, and they veered away from making a unified corporation with the Kushis. Is that the memory that others of you have about this?
I only do know that in the Kienthaler Hof, which is in Switzerland, this has been a Kushi Institute.
Yes.
And it did, with the time, not work out to only sell macrobiotics. They said, I just lately have been talking with the Mario Binetti, and it didn't, they had to do something else, they did shiatsu, they did macrobiotics, but the food wasn't that really accepted. So they went a little bit, I was stopping then to go there because I felt this is not what I want, what I expect. So they went, I think, towards Ayurvedic food more, also to the summer macrobiotics, let's say, name it. And so nowadays it's still like this, but he himself he's very much close to the concept, the holistic behind macrobiotics. It's, I mean, food is just one part of it. So they gave it, they didn't have this name then anymore. No, for sure.
Thank you, Lena. I was privileged to go to Kiental many times. Gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
What a beautiful, wonderful place. Do you know that the men who created the Russian Revolution met in Kiental, and they created the precepts of the Russian Revolution, and Kiental is magical. And Mario hosted us many times, and I had forgotten that he did call himself a Kushi Institute, I believe, for a period of time. And he was a magnificent organizer and had a great staff, not unlike Eduardo, really. But I guess he found he had to alter his, his original format and change from the macrobiotic concepts. But I'm very glad to hear that Mario still embraces the principles of macrobiotics and the philosophy. But if any of you have not been, I recommend you take, you fly into Geneva and take a cog train, a little wooden cog train up to Kiental. And it's just magnificent. So thank you.
It will be can I say something? Next year, it's really worth it. They will have the 50th anniversary in the beginning of July. So this will be really, if you take a trip there, then perhaps put it into these days when they have the partying going on to see 50 years Kienthaler Hof, you know.
How do you spell Kiental?
Next, Kiental.
How do you spell it?
Kiental. ERHOF.
Yes.
And you certainly find something when you give this into the Google or whatever, where you search. Yeah, and it's worth it. I mean, they look much forward to have this festival on their 50th birthday.
Oh, I'm sure Mario will make it magnificent. When he had a conference there in the evening, we entered Kiental. They had brought in greenery and trees and put lights inside. And we walked through this arbor of magic. I mean, Mario really is quite wonderful and creative and warm. It was a beautiful place. And thank you, Lena. Maybe we can all meet there and create a new revolution.
Yeah, looking for a party, that's where it's going to be.
Looking for what?
For a party in July.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's funny. Thank you. That's a good one.
You already get high when you are there in the mountains with all these views everywhere, and you have waterfall. It's not Niagara, but it's some kind of a Niagara waterfall. Remember, Jane, it is lots of water and lots of clouds and lots of mountain summits. It's really a good countryside. It's party enough already.
Yes.
I'd like to reflect on, because after all, the subject is trying to get more centers open. So I reflected on what name. Is Casa Del Sol the right name? I came up with it, so I was kind of not thinking that it should be the name that I came up with, but rather a community name. But it's been there for 33 years, so I'm going with it. But it's certainly not going to call it the Longoria Institute. You know, like that's an anathema to my beliefs. Keeping the center of the wheel empty is so important. You know, the definition of a cult, integral to that definition is having a leader, an identified leader. And I think this movement has to be community inspired. And so moving forward, like almost somebody's got to come and kill me so that we don't fall into giving one person credit for the, you'll do it.
No, I'm saying no.
No, well, you know the old the what's his name? Did you see the Buddha on the road killing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, oh,
Was hitting whereabouts unknown. Alan Watts. Alan Watts.
yes.
You see the Buddha on the road killing, and I think that I always thought that was funny. Like, yeah, really. Well, the thing is, you can't have that center of the wheel. Otherwise, you're going to lose the community. Buddhism is about all of us. It's not about one individual. You know, how arrogant to call something after yourself. I totally despise that idea.
Mm.
Because then, there's Micho smoking, drinking coffee, staying up late at night, and all of a sudden the whole thing falls apart because people see that and say, what? It makes it vulnerable. It can't be individualized. It's got to be the collective. It's true communism. So, James?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, Eduardo. Yeah.
And I'm really so ready to get out of the way.
And Osawa was in a diner after giving a conference one day, and he was enjoying a cup of coffee and a piece of pumpkin pie. And a woman came in. This is in the literature. You may remember it. Woman came in who had been at the conference and sat down next to him and said, "How can you be sitting here and have a cup of coffee and a piece of pumpkin pie?" And he looks at her and he says, "I'm not a saint." That's in the literature, but you're absolutely right when you say if you've got some sort of foundation that's named after you, you see, and you are espousing, you see, that type of thinking makes it even more difficult, you see. Yeah.
Yeah. Herman, I don't know if this is true, maybe one of those other stories I'd like to know more about. Because I was at Vega not too much before he died. But they said that, he started going to the coffee shop and having donuts.
Yeah.
Right before he died.
Every morning.
Oh, well, tell me more, because I so loved Herman.
He had a big problem. He had a big problem with the last time that he saw his mother, or his adoptive mother, because his birth family had given him away to relatives who were childless. And so, but he never was informed about that until much later in life. And after he had started macrobiotics in the dietary sense, he came home one day, and his adoptive mother made him mochi with sprinkled sugar, which this traditional mochi, which was once upon a time his favorite dish. And he did not eat it. He just left it there, and that was his goodbye. That was the last time that he saw her, and he regretted that. And at the very last stages of his life, started to experiment with sugar, because partly because of that. This is the story that he tells us. You see, it isn't my interpretation. This is how he presented the story to us. And he was having donut holes,
All right.
donut holes in the morning, and a cup of coffee, or maybe two. And he was doing that consistently. And his bottom line, he came to, he let us know that even with all of the years of macrobiotic practice, it's not going to serve you very much good if you follow a diet like that, if you fall back into it, you see. And that's exactly how he read his own situation. But it was more than simply an experiment. It was also complicated by that regret that he felt about the last time that he saw his mother.
I'd like to ask the group, so I'll be 80 in a few months, and I noticed that everything takes a little bit more energy to do things right. I've got to be more careful as I age, and so it's a lot easier to slip, right? And is everyone having a similar experience? I asked Ganat to tell me a profile of this that was together today. He says, well, we're all mature.
What do you mean by it's easier to slip? What do you mean by it's easier to slip, Wyo?
It takes more energy. It takes more resolve. And I can't thank you for Mick for that explanation of, because Herman was a hero to me. Sweet man. And
Eduardo, if we look in terms of yin and yang, and then we see that as we age, we get more and more young, or also right now we're coming into summertime where it's pretty hot, and the whole political climate, I think we could call more young, many youngizing factors. So it makes sense that we want to relax ourselves. If we do it with donut holes and coffee, that's one way. And maybe his lifestyle as a leader also was very youngizing. So it's when you say, well, it's harder because I'm more young than I was before. Well, yes. And then we have to work, if we want, harder to find good quality yin. And I find myself attracted to fruit, and I wasn't before. It was enough to smell it. I thought, oh, that's really beautiful. Or to walk past a coffee shop and see these beautiful cakes and just feast with my eyes. And I don't go that far. I don't eat cakes. Still, they're appealing and interesting and lovely.
beautiful.
But don't forget also, and Lino told us the story of caring for his mother, and that the techniques that he'd learned were not having a positive effect on her. And it was only when he remembered his instruction from Morimoto, that when yang doesn't work, then you try the yin. And so he did the opposite, and that had a positive effect. So that means that you're really approaching, the end. So you need to be very, very careful. You need to be very, very careful. He was able to care for his mom, but where she was very close to the end.
Interesting.
And yes, as we're getting toward 80 and 90, we need to pay more attention. We don't climb ladders, and we haven't climbed ladders since, say, age 60 or 65, because the muscles at the bottom of our feet are not supportive of that, you see, unless we paid special attention to it. So such things we need to be very attentive to. And that's your mindfulness practice, right, Eduardo? You're always mindful of where you are.
Indeed.
This is for sure. This has to do with consciousness and with knowing yourself well. I won't stop to climb anything, any hill, any ladder, if I feel, I don't look in my calendar what age I have. I'm more trying to, or I'm not trying, I'm looking towards myself and in which state I am, and don't limit yourself with thinking, oh, I have this age, I have this age. If you feel that your body is less there, less serving you, then we have all to accommodate in this moment. But I'm not there yet, so I can't really talk, but I feel it's a lot of what is going on in general. We think age has to bring this and this and this misery, and has not to be. We have so many examples where people got 100 years old and their mind at least was very, very clear, but they also were moving and the muscles, I don't think so. I think you should train a little bit, get oxygen into your system, and eating is just a little part of it. But this is for sure the young, the extremes have to be watched, so-called. Yeah. And for the fruit, this is the beginning of going in one direction. I would consider to just take good care of yourself, not too much, just a very good chewing too. And I think fruit.
Moderation is my middle name.
Yeah, moderation. Yeah, right.
Well,
I have been to the International Macrobiotic Teachers Conference lately, and that's where I met all these Portuguese. Somebody wrote in Portugal, there is nothing going on. This is the opposite. We have been having 40 people all together in Denmark. The meeting was in Denmark, and there were 16 alone from Portugal, and also the wife of Chico, and a lot of students and some of her teachers in the school that she's did in Lisbon. And it's good news. There is somebody else now taking care of the institute, and it's going on to be a school. Yeah. So Portugal is in a good, Lisbon is in good hands. I can only tell.
Well, Lena, you are full of good news today, and along with Eduardo, of course. I think when Micho passed away, and some of our dear macrobiotic teachers, perhaps, and literally at a young age, I think people grieved deeply, and I feel now we're coming out of that. We're claiming our own power, our own creativity. And with that, with the aging, we are aging. We're the elders, many of us here today and who may be listening. And that's a wonderful place to be. And fruit, Lino and I have always had fruit. Neither of us had a life-threatening illness. Sugar was out. You draw lines. Some of our macrobiotic elders, along with Herman and Herman's contemporaries, got into fried dough with sugar. I'm not going to be even more specific, but donuts had something to do with it. Why? They wanted the yin, but they also wanted the oil. And we just need to look at that. Eduardo, I'm not where you are with oil, but my husband was Italian, so we had the olive oil, of course. But I think that as we age, we do, as Lena said, and many of you know, we have to train ourselves for aging with exercise, gentle exercise. We don't need to do marathons necessarily. Some do, but we don't need to. But walking and Qigong and yoga keeps us flexible. Someone mentioned feet. We need to focus on any area of our body that needs help and use the wonderful tools that are available out there. Our bodies are changing. And if we're too stiff, we are too young, as Ganat said. We can get too young and too tight, too salty. And for heaven's sakes, an apple, some organic cherries. They do very well with me. Maybe not for all of you, but this world is very hot now. It's very young. Everything's changed. And sometimes instead of miso soup, I'll have a handful of cherries or some watermelon. Listen to ourselves. As Lena said, be intuitive. Listen to your body. If you've studied well, it's time really to use your intuition. I don't tell beginners to listen to their intuition always because they have the intuition to go eat Haagen-Dazs all day long. But sensible macrobiotic eating is powerful and wonderful. But you do need to know yourself, your age, and go into training for being an elder, gently but firmly, increasing perhaps weights, or Lena was a big fan of rebounding every day to get the blood circulating.
How long was he doing it for 20 minutes at a time? Jane, was he doing the rebounding?
Sometimes just 10 minutes, but he liked to do it before meals. So that would be 30 minutes a day. And if you don't have one, you can dance. He was a big lover of dancing and movement and music. He was a joyous person and enjoyed all aspects. He was an international Qigong teacher. And I'm learning really how powerful that is. Some of my elder clients are using Qigong to their advantage. Getting oxygen, I think Lena said, bring oxygen into the body. Don't let yourself get stiff and tired, all the time. You shouldn't, obviously, be tired all the time. And rest when you need to. It's all about balance, of course. So someone else can share.
Jane, I remember that Lena would give fighting couples emergency orange juice.
That's right.
Emergency orange juice.
Lena and I always traveled with a few tangerines in the car in case there was an argument. We were both very young people. I mean, Lena was he was a partisan, for heaven's sakes. You'll read in his book, we're writing his autobiography of his time as a youth, and he went through 2 wars, the World War II and also the Korean War. And macrobiotics saved him. It transformed him from a young, very young, even bitter man in his youth after the communists had gotten hold of him. And I see him, his face was so smooth and peaceful after he passed away. It was beautiful and it wasn't pale he had vitality. The doctors were amazed at his body functions at his age. And but just want to say, yes, he loved life, and he loved you people so much. He loved all people.
Eduardo, this is a great idea for the front desk at the casa, a bowl of tangerines for couples. That's a great idea. When you travel with the mother of your children, you see, as you say, make sure you have a bag of tangerines in the front seat.
Throw them at her.
Don't
Hey,
forget,
sorry.
sour is good for the liver, so it's good for anger and irritability. So we need to spread tangerines around the Mideast and around anywhere where there's conflict. So anyway.
That's wonderful.
Isn't that, that's how simple it all is, and yet so difficult to achieve.
Yes.
So, we talked about the lack of connection. And if everybody were connected, there would be no wars. But sure, before that, it's what we put in our body. And the tangerine story will never be forgotten, I promise. Wonderful story.
But you don't throw it at your partner. Remember,
It's not for throwing.
Or at least peel it
peel
first.
it and you feed them little tangerine pieces.
So Eduardo, it remains for me to thank you for a beautiful presentation. Really, it was so nice because it kind of happied. Let's make a new verb, us all. It was very pleasant, very nice.
I'd like to say, ending my spiel, is that I hope I've planted some seeds in you, and that we can all think about the need for wellness community centers. And we're really going to develop this organization to help anyone that needs help making it happen.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Great idea.
And he inspired me, and we've been together since 1981. That's our story.
Yeah, great story.
We had our times with the tangerines once or twice. Of course, Italian and Irish, but all people do. But no, we had a wonderful, wonderful life. We really did. I'm grateful to all of you. Eduardo, for your support and friendship, and Gnat for the wonderful job you're doing with these programs. Oh, thank you so much.
Oh,
And
you're
all,
welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
all of you, thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
This is a silly
wait.
question, just a sec. Who's this Eduardo's fathom note taker? What is that?
It's an AI. Go ahead and explain.
Oh, okay, all right, forget it. Okay.
Okay, everyone? Going once, going twice? Thank you all.
What's the news? What's the news down in your neck of the woods? How was your trip back?
Flexible? Good neck.
Good neck.
Yep. Likes to neck.
You have a beautiful neck. You had a wonderful time in India, yes?
Oh, I had a wonderful time. I'm wearing Indian clothing now, and I
The
just,
spot is gone.
my heart, just amazing. And I had a birthday this week, and I celebrated on Tuesday, on the July 2nd is my English birthday, and I invited local friends here to a pub. And we just had such a nice time, just relaxing and chatting. And I brought like plastilina and stuff to do and games and whatever. And then on the weekend, I have, according to the Jewish calendar, I had my Hebrew birthday. So I have Haredim friends, which means super ultra, can't be any more young in their understanding and practice of religion, of Judaism. And wow, what an experience to be invited into their home as they practice this most holy day for them. I mean, it was just a phenomenal experience of just like a direct channel. I'm still blown away by it. It was just amazing. It was really a gift.
Was that your
That's
first time? Your first time at such a celebration?
Well, I'll tell you that Sheldon and I, no, first me by myself, and then a second time after I met Sheldon, I tried to be strictly Orthodox religious Judaism. And at the beginning, it was great and, you know, such insights and connection, this kind of stuff. And then as it became more and more young, and I'm already a young person, it just was like I couldn't withstand it. I couldn't maintain it. I couldn't find a method that suited me. So twice I practiced this lifestyle for maybe a year or something, and then kind of said, thank you very much. And just recently, I've become more involved in a looser form of identification or something like that, a more conservative, we call it. So of course, I was talking with my ultra Orthodox friend about a conservative practice, and oh, vey gazalt, you know, that didn't go well at all for her. And I say the same thing to her. I mean, it was a beautiful experience, and I closed my camera and my voice just now because she just happened to call, and already she wants to sign me up for a women's seminar to talk about, you know. So
It's an interesting concept. When we love something so much, we want everybody else to love it.
that's right. Rather than
No.
seeing what's appropriate for them, is their expression appropriate for them?
No, I was thinking also in terms of macrobiotics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if we say, was it you or someone who just said when we love something so much, we want everyone to do that thing?
But we can try. We can introduce them.
Well, the thing, Jane, is to find an expression that suits them rather than suits me.
That's right. Speak to their listening is what I have learned. Speak to their listening. Some people need to hear about white bread. You
Yeah.
know, it's some people are at the very beginning stage, and it's important. It's important to do that.
And how would you do? You suggest the variety, possibility of changing, of trying out
Well,
to
like
make them
with this,
curious, or how do you manage
well,
them,
so
Jane?
similar to this experience I had with these super religious, you know, they have a particular understanding and practice. So if we want to compare it to macrobiotics, then each person has his level of what he wants to eat, what he believes and understands, and if jelly donuts are part of it or not. You know, I can't say one's right and one's wrong because or each is appropriate for that person. Maybe the person on some level wants to experiment and see what happens when they eat donut holes, or who knows? Who knows? How can I judge?
No, it's not about judging, it's opening. Judging would be
Saying
Yeah.
right or- yeah.
putting me on a different level, but I always wonder, how can I make people curious about a little change or testing something that they don't know? You know, if they don't
Never.
know, they
Never.
can't talk about it. But I might have an open view on things, and I really can't help it. I want to open other people up to get a little curious. But it's, yeah, when you come from white bread, it's a long way to go. Also for your intestine, for your microbiome.
Michelle said that very few people come to macrobiotics from a meat diet, that
I
the
did.
majority come from, you did. Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Ah.
I'd like to just say hello to Francia and
Hi.
say that she's going to speak to us, not in August forum, in the September 1st forum. So we look forward to meeting Francia.
Yeah, then I can tell you I'm the daughter of the butcher.
What are you going to speak to us about, Francis?
Being the daughter of the butcher and how I end up here with you.
Mhm.
That's wonderful.
And I will share, I lived a year with Micho, and I share you my most grateful moment with Micho in that 1 year.
Wow.
And then I like to do an exercise with it.
Very nice.
Yeah. Thank you, Peanut, for your introduction.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah.
To respond to Lena's question, people come to macrobiotics for many reasons. Think about how you did. I came because I was in pain, and I did not like pain. I did not want pain in my life. And my mother, my dear, wonderful mother, had suffered pain all her life with arthritis. I somehow knew there was a reason. Something in me, a seed that was planted decades before or through my spiritual studies, I knew that there was a solution. There was something I was doing. I'm the type of person who feels responsible for things that happen to her, and it actually, I feel responsible for a lot of things. So I was led by pain. Other people would go to Eduardo's center for the social aspect, for a wonderful meal, to meet people. That's why it's so important to have a welcoming center in your city where people can meet, join together, and enjoy the food. And then from there, perhaps buy a book. And those of us who do counseling sit across from people in a room with people or on Zoom, and we ask them, you know, tell us about your life. Tell me what's going on with you. Most of them do have a physical problem. That's true, but not always. I'm seeing more people with emotional problems, or they want to prevent problems in the future. So there's so many reasons why people become macrobiotic.
And it's
Or-
all attraction.
And what?
It's all attraction. Attraction.
It is attraction. Yes.
You mean the person, Ginat? Attraction, the person who is in front of you, or what kind of an attraction?
Yeah, so there's something in their vibration and my vibration, or macrobiotic vibration or whatever, that's a match so that they can have a common understanding. People are attracted to Casa de Luz because it offers so much. They say, yes, I want this.
Yes.
I'm asking this because I had been helping. I wanted to help people. It was Chernobyl that made me meet macrobiotics. I got into 1 week with all trainers and counselors of the world, you know, in '86. And I was nourished macrobiotically. And from the second day on, I knew this. I have never lived like this. I have never felt like this. this was the start. I never went away. I always went closer, and I had stores where I,
We can't
without
help
having a
you.
pain, Jane, no pain. No, I didn't feel anything at that time. But I felt so much better, so much closer to myself already. And it got always a little bit more. I think it's not a static thing. It's something to go on.
And we can't know who we influence, right? We
Yeah.
can't.
We have
Someone
to.
influenced you, Lena, in your earlier life, somewhere, somehow, either a physical person or intuition influenced you. And so when you heard about it, it clicked with you. I call it clicking. For me, it just clicked. This was what I had been looking for.
Me too.
And Lena prepared a meal for me, and I felt like I had come home.
Mhm. Yeah.
It doesn't work that way with everyone. We know that. Some people will say,
Agreed.
get that bird seed away from me and bring me a hamburger. There are all kinds of people in the world. There are. And so.
Yeah.
I fell in love right away. Gina, did you fall in love with macrobiotics like from one moment to the next, or was it a thing that went on and on and on, and you developed the
I
sense?
had been vegetarian, so I did have that beginning of a bridge, and then vegan. So that was the next step. And then when I heard about macrobiotics, for me and personally, the theory appealed to me. And I remember I went to a lecture. It was here in Jerusalem, and the lecturer said something about yin and yang and order of the universe, and it was like, wow. And it just opened up. So intellectually, it gave me a feeling of God, that there was something bigger and ordered, and it just. And then my recent experience is more a bodily experience of God. And for me, that's the direction, the point, the purpose of our living here. And with that, I'm gonna allow you, or not allow you, but please enjoy continuing. I gotta run. Actually, I have a class at the synagogue in 10 minutes. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
Continue, please.
Thank you all
Thank you,
so much.
Gina. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Wayo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
See you at the end of the month then for the cooking with Gabi. Eduardo, please tell Gabi we're looking forward.
Same station, same time.
Okay. See you
Much
later.
love. Much love to everyone.
Really appreciate this afternoon. Thank you very much, Eduardo. Thank you.
Janice, you're here.
Guys, later.
Later. Be well, everyone. Take care.
Ciao. Doei.
Okay.
Janice, I'll call you, okay?
Au revoir.
Goodbye, Jane. Good to see you. Oh, she didn't see me. Okay, let's shut this off now. Okay.